When I was a kid, growing up in Hungary meant that we watched a lot of 90s TV shows. Or maybe 80s TV shows arriving to Hungary after the whole thing. I don't know. But one of these, besides Kojak and Columbo and all these Knight Rider and Baywatch, there was this one particular long-running TV show called Dallas. That might ring a bell. And back then, I didn't know what seasons were when it came to TV shows and whatnot and how they are divided, but apparently there is something wrong with season 8, or, well, one of the seasons. And that is what I'm going to reference a lot today, and that will serve as the conclusion for today's lesson or video or vlog episode or whatever. Let's find out what's going on in there. So here is what we have to deal with. We have a partially completed translation that does not, this one means terrible, but it doesn't say this is just a terrible piece of news and not the most terrible piece of news ever. And we need to address that. So in order to be able to address that, we need to talk about how we conjugate all sorts of crazy adjectives in Hungarian. So let's start with something very simple. Like I said in the previous episode, we don't have to deal with this kind of horribleness where you have terrible with multiple syllables. That means we have to use most as opposed to the ER attachment. So it's not terribler and terriblest, but more terrible and most terrible. In Hungarian, that's not true. We have, and probably this is not a very good... There you go, that's a bit better. So in Hungarian, we've got something called nagy, which is big. And let's just conjugate that. So I want to have bigger, which is nagyobb, and then want to have biggest, which is like nagyobb. Wow! If I were a designer, probably I would fail the spacing seminar. There you go. Now it's better. But it might not work with everything. So let's do another one. Kis means small, and then I would use the double B, but with a different connecting vowel, because by this time you must have gotten used to it, that connecting vowels change all the time and adapt, and they try to complement all the other vowels in the word. Right. So that should be kisebb, and then legkisebb. And yes, it does work. Brilliant. Interestingly enough, Hungarians often make the mistake of using double S when it comes to writing or spelling kisebb, which is smaller. That's because for some reason people tend to pronounce this word as kisebb as opposed to kisebb. Now that is one of the few curious things about the language when Hungarian is supposed to have a literal pronunciation where you pronounce everything by the rules, and that's true, but sometimes we just adjust things a little bit. But that's really only in a few cases. And one of the famous cases is this one. Now, I think what should tell you that it's really something weird and strange is that, what I said before, Hungarians often make mistakes with the spelling, because we tend to expect to be able to spell words just by listening to them and putting the letters on paper or in the computer. But so far, we've only examined small words. What about big ones? Isn't that a rule, just like in English? Well, no, there isn't. Let's go with hatalmas, which is giant. technically, what I could do is write a sort of code. There you go. And of course, here's the adjective. Oh my god, I'm such a coder person. But yeah, I mean, connecting vowel here, to be there, leg there, and of course, so first you need to do the two B's and then the leg. So there you go, that's how I explain it to students, and they seem to be satisfied with it. And after all this explanation, let's try to duplicate this and write it down. Obviously it becomes the, which is O, and there we go. Leg and surname, b. We already have a vowel in there, so that's brilliant. If you have another vowel like this one, which means it is actually this means terrible as well, or awful probably, and it's just the synonym for surname. And there you go. Now, why did I mention Dallas? In one of the seasons, one of the main characters got killed. I think it was a season finale. Bobby, who was the nice younger brother of the evil main antagonist. And everybody loved Bobby, and they wanted him back. Now, Dallas could not seem to be able to continue without Bobby, but there was a whole season planned with his absence. And the solution that the writers of Dallas gave to the people, that it turned out that the whole season, that means 20-something episodes, was just a dream of another character in the show. You might have already known this, but I just wanted to explain. So that left fans a little bit disappointed, because they invested the time for the whole season, and none of what happened during that time matters. Similarly, none of what we've done today matters at all. Remember in the last episode I mentioned that some things, some meaning gets lost during translation, and this is one of them. We never say I've got the most terrible news for you in Hungarian. We only say what we translated already. Van egy szörnyű hírem. 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 And that's it. So whatever we did today seems quite good for the soul, and it was great practice, but none of it matters. Nothing. I can feel the disappointment in you at the moment. But, well, I guess you could rationalize this episode as at least we looked at some grammar stuff. But, yeah, well, I guess. But it doesn't matter, truly. It has no meaning at all here. And that's the lesson. It is okay to loosely translate things when it comes to from English to Hungarian, or the other way around. As long as you translate the meaning or convey the meaning, you're fine. But you can't do one thing. There's a big no-no. You can't do this. You can't be sloppy with the grammar and the cultural references, but you can be sloppy with the meaning. Things can get lost as long as the sentence really, truly sounds like something that a Hungarian would say. Of course, if you make mistakes, nobody will murder you. That's not the Hungarian way. Or probably it's none of the other languages' ways as well, or either. I can't imagine me going to America and get shot. Hang on, let me rephrase that. I can't imagine going to America, get shot because of poor grammar. No, I think I can. I mean, if I get into trouble. Okay, you know what? If you go to America, you get shot, no matter what. Doesn't matter. I'm sorry I had to make that joke. Everybody makes that joke. Anyways, but I can't imagine, truly, on a more serious note, going to the US, for instance, where everybody seems to be quite friendly, and making some sort of mistake and then being murdered, but it could lead to awkward moments. And the truth is that one of the ways to avoid that is to have this goal all the time in front of you, this goal that has to make sense grammarly and culturally. And it might not say exactly what I want to say, but it makes sense there. And that is, if you think about it, a huge drawback of switching from one language to another. Often my students ask me how to say something in particular in English, for instance, and I will have to say, there is no way. And then they ask, well, how is there no way? Are there no words for it? And well, yeah, there are words for it, but it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense at all to say something like that in English. Or, the other way around, it doesn't make sense at all to say something like that in Hungarian. One of the examples I usually give people is when you say quite positive things like, well, this is a great story, or this is a great deal, let's catch up on this one later. And then in English, this would say that, okay, I'm mildly interested, but, let's not put a date on it. Let's not put money on it. We'll see, and we probably won't do anything. But for a Hungarian, this would mean, oh, they are interested in our product and we will make millions now, because they didn't say, no, sorry, I'm not interested, I'm not. But that's what you should say. Although you have to be as polite as possible about it, and there are ways to be polite in Hungarian, so I'm not suggesting that you simply just go ahead and say no all the time. Still, the phrases that we use, questions like, hey, how are you? That could have a very different meaning or aspect or consequence in another language. And to close today's lesson, I guess it would be this, that even though we can translate precisely what we have in English, it's not going to happen. Simply because we want to be conformant with the language. We want to be part of the cool group, which is the Hungarian speakers. And I guess that is it for today. Thanks for watching. I hope this all makes sense. If you have any questions about it, just don't be afraid to ask. The document link is in the description. Please like and comment and share, and then everybody will be happy, as usual. And soon we will conquer the world. Oops, should not have said that. But anyways, the cat's out of the box now. We definitely need to conquer the world. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.